Hey everybody, I hope you guys have had a great long weekend, but now it's time to get back into the groove of things and start talking about music again, okay? So we've talked about how to keep a steady beat, and we've talked about note value. And last week we discussed how note value and rhythm can be combined, right? When we're talking about tas and tees to figure out what a rhythm is going to sound like when we see all of those notes up on a piece of music or up on the board or whatever, okay? But now we got to start talking about adding in notes and pitches specifically to create music, right? And the first thing that we need to do is talk about the staff. Now, you've probably seen something like this before, right? You've probably seen these symbols over here on the left somewhere, and you've probably seen all these lines and stuff like that if you've ever seen a piece of music or if you've seen music in a movie or something like that, okay? Now, this is a staff. Specifically, these 5 lines and 4 spaces are a staff, all right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, and then here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. Okay, so 5 lines and 4 spaces are a staff. Okay, and what kind of staff it is determined by these little symbols over here on the left. Okay, up here on the top left, we have something called a treble clef. A treble clef indicates that we're going to be using higher notes, okay? Girls will always be singing in the treble clef, and about 50% of the time, guys will be singing in the treble clef too. It just indicates that we're singing notes that are higher than notes that are down here in the bass clef. Okay, so this frowny face looking thing is the bass clef, and it is an indication that you're going to be singing or playing lower notes. So, to clarify, this twirly swirly thing on the top is a treble clef, and in it indicates that you're going to be singing or playing higher notes. And on the bottom, we have our little frowny face fellow, and he is a bass clef, and he indicates that we're going to be singing lower notes, okay? Now, whether or not you're singing in the treble clef or the bass clef, each one of these lines and spaces has a name that is a letter, and we'll be talking about that later. But for right now, what I need you to know for choir is solfege, okay? Now, solfege is these funky looking hand signs and these weird words that you see, okay? Solfege is always going to start when we're talking about a solfege scale anyway. It's going to start down here at the bottom with this do, okay? And it's going to work its way up the scale to this top do, okay? So we'll start here at do, and it's got this weird little fist thing, and all of these different words have different hand signs, and we'll talk more about the hand signs and what the scale sounds like later. But what I need you to know right now is that it starts at do. So number 1 is going to be do. Then we'll move to re, mi, fa, so, la, ti, and do. Okay, so it's always going to go in that order. If you're going to go up the scale, it's going to go up in that order from do to re to mi to fa, so, la, ti, do. Okay, that's the order of the scale. So now let's hop over here where you can see that down here in the corner, I've got do, re, mi, fa, so, la, ti, and do. Okay, and you just need to know, you got to remember that if we start down here at do, we're going to work our way up the scale up here to the top do. That's the order. Okay, we start at the bottom and we work our way up to the top. Okay, now let's say that we're going to start writing in solfege. When we start writing solfege into music, I'm always going to tell you where do is. Okay, I will always tell you where do is until I teach you how to find do yourself, okay? But let's say, for example, that do is going to start right here on this little space. Okay, let me get that centered. So on that first space, we're going to have do. So here on this first space. Okay? Now, what note is going to come next, or what solfege syllable is going to come next? If we start here at do and we move up, what comes next after do? Pause it if you need to figure it out. But the correct answer is if you start here with do and you move up, you're going to move here to re. So on this line, because it's always going to move space, line, space, line, space, on this line, you're going to be on re. Now remember, you're going to go space, line, space, line, space. So we said do was on a space, re was on a line. So up here on this next space, we're going to have, if you look down here at the solfege, we're here on re, and we're going to move up to mi. So here on this space, we're going to write mi. And now you can kind of fill in the blanks from here probably, but let's do it together anyway. You're going to move, if you look down at the solfege, move from mi up, 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 up to fa. So this next line, because we said space, line, is going to be fa. That next space, if you continue, look on down at the solfege chart down here, you move up. Next up we have sol, and we're actually going to take the L out of that. We're just going to call it so. Okay? You move from so up to la, keeping the order of space, line, space, line. Move up, we're almost there. You're going to have T. And then moving up one more time to our final do. So you can see that we've worked on that. It's important that you remember that we've worked from space to line, space, line, space, line, space to line. That's always going to be the case when we are working up a scale, okay? And another thing that's super important for you to remember is that it's always going to be this order, okay, when we're talking about a scale. However, if we start talking in music, what makes music interesting is when these are mixed up into different orders with different note values, okay? And that's not important for right now, but what is important for right now is that you remember that it's always going to be this order. Space line, space line, space line, and do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, and do. Now, here's another super, super, super important part. If do moves, so if we have do here on the bottom, right? If do moves, everything else is going to move with it, okay? So for example, let's say we're going to move do up to, or rather down to that bottom line, okay? We're going to move do down to that bottom line, okay? You notice that all of these other things have shifted too, right? So now do is on the line. So now the order is line, space, line, space, line, space. Remember, it's going to be alternating from line to space every time. And you can see that now re is in a space and mi is on a line, right? You can see that they're still alternating, but they all moved down to be in the same spots or in the same order, right? So if do moves, everything else moves. So let's even just write that down so we make sure we don't forget that. If do moves, everything else moves too, right? And it moves with it. In fact, let's word it that way. If do moves, everything else moves with it. That's super, super, super important. Okay, so let's again say that do has moved, and now do has moved to the second line. You can see that everything else shifted up with it, right? Do is here, and re is after that, mi is after that, fa is after that. We're still alternating line, space, line, and it's all still in the same order. Okay, so now let's erase all of this and write it all in one more time. Let's say that do is going to be, we'll put it here on this second space. Okay, if do is here, we know if you look down at the solfege chart, we start here on do, we move up here to re, okay, and if here we're on a space, then our next note is going to be here on a line. So up here on this line we have re. Remember, space line. We move, if you look down at the solfege chart, we move up from re to mi. Okay, moving on. If you move from mi up to fa, from fa up to so, from so up to la to T right on top of the staff, and up here at the very top we have do, and actually in this case do is going to be on something called a ledger line, which is like above the staff. Okay, but either way we're moving space line, all the way up, and it stays in that order. Okay, now I know that can be a little bit confusing, and we're going to keep on talking about it, and we're going to have lots of practice writing in solfege, and you will be a pro at it here pretty soon. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, I want you to feel free to send me a message on Schoology or send me an email, whatever you need to do. I just want to make sure that you have everything you need to understand it the best you can. So remember, you can always message me about anything, even if you just have a question about, really anything. You can always come and talk to me, but especially if you have a question about anything that we've talked about so far, please let me know. And remember, it is so important to be kind. Okay, so do your best to be kind, make somebody happy today, and I will see you next time, okay? Thanks for tuning in. Bye, guys.